we are all supposed to be warriors for God, no matter what faith you're in, whatever faith you're in, even if you're not of a faith. If you're standing up for what is right and true, you're standing up for God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Solid, episode number 58. We've got a good one here for you today. We were privileged to have Eric Moutsos on with us. And those of you that don't know him, you'll have an opportunity now to learn about who he is. A man of courage, a man who's just doing a lot of good in the world today. Great family, great kids. And just a leader in our community and really helping many people, I think, decipher what's right versus what's wrong. And we had a great discussion with him today.
Yeah, man, it was awesome. I think it was, he's the definition of courage and faith and walking in right principles and inspiring other people to do the same. So I'm grateful he was on today.
Yeah, Eric, we appreciate you, man.
You guys are great.
Yeah. Where do people find you? What's the best place to follow you? And
I would just say ericmoutsos.com and then just try to find me on, I have 3 Instagrams, because I keep getting because they shadow ban me all the time. So I work a lot on Instagram, Telegram. So on Instagram, there's a little link in the bio. So click that link and then you'll find me on all the other platforms.
Okay.
And then I have a podcast called The American Moutsos Show on Rumble and on all other platforms.
Cool. Very good. Very good. So yeah, be sure to follow him and like and subscribe and make sure you comment on what we're doing as well. We'd love to hear your feedback, what you like, maybe what you don't like. We're open to it all. And we really do need to share this. Anytime we talk about conservative values, God, family, a lot of times those things tend to get shadow banned. So we need your help. We need your help with getting this out to everybody we can. And hopefully we don't get shut down for all the truth that was spoken.
Oh, you will.
So we might.
Someday, yeah, you will.
All right. So enjoy today, guys. We love you and we appreciate you. Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
It's good to have you.
Yeah.
I was excited when I was able to reach out to you and you got right back to me and you were on family vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where'd you guys go?
Oh, just up north. We just took the RV and just kind of did a little northern Utah tour through Manti. Mm-hmm. Went to this guy had this amazing backyard. He's on an acre and he's got like 200 and something animals. He's got this massive greenhouse dude, it is amazing.
He's set up.
Yeah. And so we went through there. We camped at one of my buddy's places that's kind of doing a bug out. Then we went to Communist Lagoon and then came over here. There's kids at Lagoon that are working there that have full on their name tags, they, them.
No.
Amazing.
Yep.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh.
It's too bad.
And yeah.
See, I just refuse to go. I don't know. We bought Disney tickets in Florida, and before they had a mask mandate, and then they launched a mask mandate. I'm like, I'm not going. I refuse to go. So we still have it banked or whatever. They won't give you a refund. I'm like, I'm not going.
Yeah.
So
good for you.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Eric, a lot of people know you, but a lot of people don't know you that are going to be listening in. So I just wanted to start off. You have an awesome story. You wrote a book how many years ago? 5-6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's a really good book called Dispatched. I read it. It's been a few years since I read it, but kind of goes over your story that kind of, I think, kick things off with everything that you're kind of maybe doing now, standing for now. Those that follow you on social media get some comic relief.
Some hilarious memes.
Yeah, really good memes. You're the king of memes.
Well, I'm the king at stealing memes. I'm the king at mining stolen memes.
You are. You're good at it.
So I have a couple meme miners for me now. I'm to the point where I've got like dealers. They deal to me.
Okay, yeah.
And then I just... That's a machine.
You're a master.
It's a machine.
Yeah, it's really good.
That's why I have 48,000 pictures in my... I'm not kidding you. 48,000... Let's see here. 48,000. Is that how many I have? 52,000. 52,000
of memes.
Of just pictures. Yeah, most are memes.
Right. That's
so it's a drug. It's my drug of choice. Like in 2020, when all of this started happening, memes were my drug of choice, and then that is still my drug of choice.
That's funny.
I wonder what that's worth, all those pictures.
I don't know. It's where people just don't understand that we are full on under attack right now, and people can't see it. And I've been trying to wake people up, going back with the whole Dispatch, my book, in 2014 when I was in national news, because I didn't want to be in the LGBT parade. And people had no clue what was happening, because that was just right after the cake baker. Do you remember the cake baker in Colorado?
Yep.
He didn't want to bake the gay wedding cake.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, this is against my conscience. And they went after him hardcore.
Yep, I
the
remember.
state. I remember seeing that, and I was like, what is
And you
this?
you were a cop at the time.
And I remember just reading about it, just trying to understand it. Like, how does this happen? This guy's getting and I was pretty fascinated with it. And now looking back, I understand why, because I feel like God was kind of preparing me for what was about to happen.
Yeah.
I really believe that, because I never wanted to be a cop when I was younger. I never wanted to be. I never had that desire to be a policeman, let alone a motorcycle cop, because I'm actually afraid of motorcycles. Like,
Wow.
I mean,
So how'd you end up there?
I just felt like that's where I needed to go.
Wow.
And then, I was on the motorcycle squad for a year. I was their number one guy. And, but it took me just to get on the squad. I was getting pushed back because I had, prior to, so like the whole parade, where do I need to go back? How far do I need to go back? with
whatever
this?
makes
far
the
you
most
want.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Your story's awesome. So whatever.
So I should have started out like, my name is Eric Moutsos, and I'm a recovering government employee. That's how I start this out, because it is like, there's full on PTSD. I probably need to go to therapy because of all the things that I've been through, and the things that I've seen. But I got into law enforcement right around 25. I went on a ride along. I was pursuing a country music career. I was on Evander Holyfield's record label. I have a crazy life story. I was on Evander Holyfield's record label for a couple years as his first and only country artist. I had opened up for Colin Ray. I thought that's what I was going to do, but I went to Nashville, and I kept going to Nashville, and I just felt like it just wasn't. It just felt off. It just didn't feel like I wanted to do that, but we had just had our first child. I told the guy that found Tim McGraw, he was going to do a joint venture deal. His name's Mike Borchetta. He was going to do a joint venture deal with my album, and they wanted me to come out and do this radio tour, but it was my daughter's first birthday, and I'm like, hey, I can't come out for this. And he's like, I don't think you understand what this is going to take. And I'm like, maybe I don't. And then it just kind of dissolved to where it was like, I've got a family, like I've got it was almost like, it was kind of like a choice.
You
Like,
had kids at the time?
Our first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just your first. Okay.
And I just knew that if I pursued that, I just knew it kind of spiritually. If I pursued that a family life and that they don't mix.
Yeah. Yeah. Being on the road, being on tour. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Choosing
that's
your
it. That's
family
if
over
you
that,
stick. I'm not great at it, but if you get a good song, you could stick and go.
Yeah.
So then I did a ride along with this guy in my old church, and he's on the gang unit in the SWAT team.
Where at? In Salt Lake?
Salt Lake City.
Where at in Salt Lake?
Like where?
Like right downtown? Or?
Oh yeah, just everywhere downtown. I mean, we were focused. So we went to all these really hot calls, man with a knife. I didn't want to come home. It was so much fun.
Yeah. I did one in Vegas one time. That's what I was asking.
It's
It was
fun,
cool.
right?
Yeah. It was.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like you're like in the matrix. It's like listening to everything happening. And so I really loved it because I can't just sit still. So I went home and I'm like, I really want to do this. Like I could see myself doing this. And my wife's like, you'd be a good cop. Mm-hmm. So then I went to school and,
Wow.
my first introduction was this man. His name was Chief Randy Johnson, and he stood up. So we were all cadets. We hadn't yet been hired. It was a Salt Lake Community College. And he asked the question. He's like, who do you work for? And people would raise their hand. Well, we work for the community. We work for the people. We work for the city. And he's like, somebody's like, we work for you. And he just rolled his eyes. He's like, I want to be very crystal clear. He's like, you work for God and never forget that.
Wow.
And I remember just getting chills like,
Wow.
because I felt
That's
that
awesome.
was true. I was like, that's true. But I didn't, I'm like, this is how it's going to be?
Yeah.
Like, this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out I never heard anything like that ever again until years later when this friend that I had, not super great friend, but friend that I had committed suicide on the police department and a police officer. And as they were giving his like final kind of dispatch over the air, like Juliet 25, end of call, like end of watch, right? Godspeed. She's like, Godspeed. And it just hit me. I was like, so we're going to talk about God at the very, very beginning of our career. And then we're going to talk about God at the very, very end once they commit suicide, but nothing in between. Because talking about God downtown Salt Lake City was taboo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you don't talk about that stuff. And to me, that's the reason why we're in such a mess, because we don't talk about it.
Exactly.
We don't talk about religion. We don't talk about politics. And if it's not the right type of religion, which this whole wokeism is a religion.
Sure.
I'm telling you, this is a religion.
Yeah. Right.
If we don't talk about that kind of stuff, we're automatically going to be part of this religion. And it's, I have this quote that I want to share. It's sorry for the audience or that's listening to this, but I really want to. It's by a man named Neil A. Maxwell, and it's meeting the challenges of today. And he says in it, this. I promise this is worth the wait.
Yeah. Take your time.
Challenges of today. So this is given in 1978, so 3 years before I was born. And he says this, we are now entering a period of incredible ironies. Let us cite but one of these ironies, which is yet in its subtle stages. We shall see in our time a maximum, if indirect, effort made to establish irreligion as the state religion.
Dang.
Hold on. It gets really good. As the state religion. So what that means, irreligion is no religion.
Right.
You can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Hold on. Why are you talking about this?
How much do you hear right now about people saying religion's the problem, religion's the issue?
Yeah.
You hear it like crazy right now.
Oh, yeah. Even in our own
All the
faith,
time.
even in our own
Right.
denominations. Like, no, we don't talk about that outside of church. It's actually a new form of paganism that uses the carefully preserved and cultivated freedoms of Western civilization to shrink freedom even as it rejects the value essence of our rich Judeo-Christian heritage. Then he goes on to say, brothers and sisters, irreligion as the state religion would be the worst of all combinations. Its orthodoxy would be insistent, and its inquisitors inevitable. Its paid ministry would be numerous beyond belief. Its Caesars would be insufferably condescending. Its majorities, when faced with the clear alternatives, would make the Barabbas choice, as did a mob centuries ago when Pilate confronted them with the need to decide. Awesome. So this was 43 years ago. He's like, hey guys, irreligion's coming as the state religion. And that's the whole thing. The separation of church and state. You can't talk about this stuff. That's not what it was meant to be. It was meant so that the state couldn't force an idea on the people.
Yeah. Right.
Including irreligion, including wokeism, including this diversity idea that you're going to go in and you're going to hand select based off of gender, based off of race, based off of now sexual orientation. That's how we're going to build our entire structure. Doesn't even matter if you're qualified.
Right. Scary.
Don't you feel like people are like scared of the confrontation, and that's why most people, or do you just feel like they don't know, or do you feel like they kind of know what's happening and they're just scared to actually confront the beast? You know, I've always said, if you're not willing to confront something, you're condoning it. And so, I feel like most people know. I'd like to hear your perspective on that. Do you feel like most people are, you're obviously, this is kind of your wheelhouse.
Originally, yeah, I do think that they know, but then once they don't make a decision, then they have to now choose. So now they've got to be a part of the system. And now they get mad at those that start speaking. And the reason why they're mad at those that are speaking are because that's a form of justification for not saying what they wish they could. You see? So we had this happen in Salt Lake City. So I was on the motorcycle squad at the time, and they come in and do this whole diversity training. I call it discrimination day.
And this was back in 2014.
No, this was in 2013.
Wow.
So this was just 4 months before
a decade ago.
before I lost my.
Yeah, everybody's got to listen to this because it's unbelievable what happened. It's
and this is a decade ago.
It's crazy what happened.
Yeah.
here.
So this woman, really nice lady, Asian, just so you can kind of get an idea. She's in HR, and she comes up and she brings up this pie chart of like the demographic of Salt Lake County, which is 85% white, 10% Hispanic. It's a pie chart, right? Like this is what the demographic of Salt Lake County looks like. Well, then she brings up another pie chart that clearly was a problem to them because there's 86% white employees in Salt Lake City. So we have too many white people is basically what she's saying.
Okay.
And so she asked the question, well, how can we change this? And everyone's like, you can tell people want to say something. So I raised my hand. And they're like, people at the table like, Moutsos, don't say something. And I was like, ma'am, so I said, correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying is that if I put my application for, say, sergeant, if I put my application in, but somebody that's in that pie chart that's in a lower category and everything is equal on paper, you're going to take somebody that's in a smaller sliver of the pie. And she says, well, how else are we going to do it? And so I said, ma'am, that's discrimination. This is still a color of skin. You're discriminating on me. Oh, dude, you know how it gets really uncomfortable in these types? It was really I was scared.
Yeah.
Like I say this story now, but when I was saying it, my voice was shaking.
How far into your career were you at this time?
6.5.
Yeah, not very far.
Yeah, or more.
Okay. But I mean, as far as you go a 20-year career typically, right? So you're still in the front.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You got a long
but
way
I
ahead of you.
knew I had to say something because it was wrong.
Yeah.
It was wrong.
Sure.
And so, because that's what they were starting to do. They were starting to hand select people based off of their race. They were hand selecting people based on their gender, passing up really good qualified people, right?
That's what happened to our government recently.
It's what's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
It's happening in churches. It's happening everywhere.
Are you saying they picked Joe Biden because he has Alzheimer's? Is that or dementia? Is that why they picked him? I need to make sure that I'm just kidding.
No, I think it's more than just Joe Biden. Man.
Sorry.
No, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere. We had the same problem in Utah politics.
Yep.
Mia Love, right? Okay, great. Like I really liked her at first, but she came out, I'm the first black blah. It's like, why does that matter? We can clearly see this.
Yeah.
So why are you bringing it up?
Yeah, if the roles were turned and we said the same thing in our shoes, it would be
considered racist.
Yes.
So anyway, I went to the woman afterwards, right? And I just said, hey, look, can we just talk about this? I said, what you're teaching here. Oh, and then on the piece of paper, it said like 85% white, 10% Hispanic, Native American, 1%. And then it said LGBTQ. So this is in 2013. I'm like, that's not a race. And the Asian woman was like, oh, I actually agree with you on that, but the mayor wants it in there. I'm like, this is poisonous. I'm like, because now you're going to start hand selecting people based on who they're sexually attracted to. Mm-hmm. Why should any of us know this? Mm-hmm. So this is 4 months before the parade, right? So I said, do you care if I call your boss? So I call up to the head of HR and I said, hey, this is Officer Moutsos. I'm kind of nervous about this conversation, but I just this is an open door policy, right? I said, what you're teaching is poisonous. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, because you're hand selecting people based off of their gender and their race and their sexual orientation now. I said, that is racist. That is sexist. Mm-hmm. Because now you're seeing through the lens, you're looking at people as their race.
It's discrimination by definition. Yeah.
And you're stopping people. I said, this is not good. What's happening? And I said, can I ask you a question? Because, I'll try to explain this because the chief of police at the time, they hired somebody in the police department I'll explain it. So So I said, okay, can I ask you a hypothetical to the lady? She's like, yeah. I said, if the fire department hired a fire chief who has never fought a fire, who doesn't have any fire experience, but the fire department hired a chief, what would you say to that? Well, I'll answer you right now. They would not be qualified. I said, I'm really glad you said that, because right now the chief of police just hired a deputy chief who's a woman and not a cop. And she just sat silent because our chief of police hired a deputy chief, bars on her collar, badge, lights and sirens in her car, no gun. And she's now ordering people around to the police department. And I said, and a lot of people in the police department are not okay with this. Is that all you have, Officer Moutsos? That's all I have. The next day. And I mean, I couldn't believe I did it, but I felt like someone's got to say something.
Yeah.
And look, a lot of people listening are probably like, oh, so you're a problem. No. I don't want that confrontation. The reason why I'm saying that is because everybody's thinking it. I don't like confrontations. I actually don't. I'm like, I want to be peaceful. I want to be I want to live and let live to the best. But when something's wrong, it's wrong. And I had never had anything in my file in almost 7 years. I never was written up.
Right.
I only had awards. So 3 years or a couple years prior to that, my bicycle sergeant, he came to us and said we needed to arrest 5 people per day. And I was like, what do you mean? Half of us are already doing that. Well, you have to do this. Like, you have to turn in 5.
It's a quota.
Absolutely. And I said, that's not a good idea. And so I challenged it. So I turned in 3 that day, and everybody else turned in 5. So he's counting the tickets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he gets to me, 1, 2, 3. And I knew the confrontation was coming, right? And so I had to have you ever blurred your eyes? Like, can you just blur your eyes right now? I had to do that because I was so scared. So I'm staring at him, but my eyes are blurred. And he calls me out. He just mother F's me, just screaming at me, dismisses everyone, makes me stay after an extra hour, didn't pay me overtime to arrest 2 more people. And I wouldn't do it. And so finally he's like, go home. And so at that moment, that's when so that's kind of like so that was before the discrimination.
Okay.
So all these things leading up to when they finally took my badge, it was like one after the next.
These little black marks they're giving you.
But there was nothing on file. No. Because how can you write somebody up for being insubordinate on what? Quotas.
Right.
Because
supposedly non-existent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then I was getting passed up, I was getting passed up for little jobs here and there. I'm like, what's going on? And then I find out it's because I was getting trashed behind the scenes by the administrators. Some of them actually liked me.
Yeah. Right.
So it's kind of like this divide of, and then because they know it's wrong too, because when you get into law enforcement to serve and protect, but then you realize this money machine. And the quota whole thing, I'm convinced that's one of the reasons why we have such a divide between the police and the public. Because if you have a white officer that's posted up in a neighborhood, let's say a ghetto, and they have a quota, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, the obvious. Yeah.
Yep.
And so nobody talks about that. They just talk about the arrest. Why are they doing this? So in my opinion, police need to be more like firemen.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait until you're called.
Right.
Instead of drumming up business.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what I see and what I think is just very admirable is when you're in those type of situations where you truly, you fear God more than man. You're proving that, and that's part of what our podcast is about. I think that's where everything starts. If we all had that as a foundation, and we truly did fear God more than man, we would stand up for these things. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everything's going to work out perfectly just because you did that. And I want you to continue with your story because things didn't work out maybe the way we would think they should work out. The Lord maybe didn't bless you the way we would think he would bless you, but I'm sure he's blessed you in other ways that you're seeing now. Maybe we'll get to that, but I'd like you to just keep going with your story because
you got to understand too. Like I come on and tell the highlights of the things that I've made a lot of stupid mistakes in my life, and I still continue to. So just know that, like, I'm always repenting, but I don't when I go against my conscience, that's the worst of me, right? When you betray yourself, when you betray your conscience, everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't like to do that. And so I believe that God, he puts us in these positions, and it's usually a position where you're going to lose something, right? Like when you see something and everyone has it, you've got to make a decision now. What are you going to do? And we're now in a time in 2023 where this war between good and evil, you got to pick a side.
Yep.
And I'm not talking Republican, Democrat. I'm talking about light versus darkness,
right and wrong,
good versus evil. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the fact is there is a light in the sand, or a line in the sand when it comes to right and wrong. I mean, there is.
Yeah.
You have to choose it at some point.
Yeah, and we have so many Christians right now in all denominations that think all you need to do is just be nice.
I know. I talk to people about this all the time. People forget that Jesus threw tables in the temple, that it wasn't like it was always just peaceful. At some point, confrontation exists, and peace isn't always the solution, especially when somebody else is pushing their ideologies and it's wrong.
Well, there's a lot of people that just don't understand the character of God. Like the character of God is the reason, why is God the king? Well, the reason why he's a king, because he defends his kingdom.
Yeah.
That war in heaven is never ending.
Yeah.
Right.
Light and darkness, that will always be.
Straight is the gate and narrow is the way. I know somebody's in. I mean, Lexi was just showing me last night. Actually, reading it was kind of firing it up. Somebody saying, "Are we the ones that are making it narrow?" I'm like, no. God's got His laws, right? And He allows us, because He loves us, to choose what we want to. We have our agency, right? And He's not going to force us to return to live back with Him if we don't want to. He lets us end up where we're going to want to end up.
Be comfortable.
Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah. So it is narrow. It straight is the gate, narrow is the way. Anyway, I cut you off on what you're going to
No, it's fine. I have scripture. I'm a Latter-day Saint, right? And a lot of people disagree, but fine, it's cool. But in my scriptures that I believe, in the Doctrine and Covenants 88:32, I think it is, it says that, and they who remain shall also be quickened. Nevertheless, they shall return again to their own place to enjoy that which they are willing to receive, because they were not willing to enjoy that which they might have received. What that means is that we are going to go where we are comfortable going.
Yeah.
And if we do not know how to stand up against darkness, we will not be prepared for the kingdom that God resides in.
We wouldn't be comfortable there.
Not at all.
We wouldn't like to be there.
Because you don't know how to have these tough conversations.
No.
You don't know how to stand up to say somebody and say, I love you. I disagree with what you're doing. Somebody messaged me the other day and was like, they have a gay child. Right? Well, what would you do? I would tell them how much I love them, and I would tell them how much I believe that this is the order. This is the proper order of heaven. We all have problems. We all are struggling with something. Your struggle is no more difficult than my struggle. And so let's not focus that is your identity, because you are a child of God. You don't identify of what we're sexually attracted to. Yep. Right? Yep. So that's a conversation that people just don't want to have, because they think that love means to affirm.
Or accept.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that's nice, but being nice and good are two different things.
It's just like your child gets addicted to drugs, so you go start buying it for him. It's no different,
Right, but see, but
I just don't understand how people don't see that. I mean, it's obvious until you're in the struggle, right? Until you're in that battle.
So the battle's truth, right? Love, light, and truth, they're all the same thing. But right now we're under attack. And so what we have to do is to stand up and say, no, not in our communities. This is not happening. God is not only a God of peace, but He's also a God of war. People don't know that. I pulled this scripture up, Exodus 15. The Lord is my strength and my song. He's become my salvation. He is my God, and I will prepare him a habitation. My father's God, I will exalt him. Exodus 15:3. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his host hath he cast into the sea. His chosen captains are also drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone. Thy right hand, O Lord, hath dashed in pieces the enemy. Like, people don't understand. Yeah. Like, there comes a time, because people are like, why doesn't Jesus just come already? Right? Have you heard this?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he just come already and stop this? Mm-hmm. Oh, no. He's seeing what characters are down there. He's seeing who's prepared. The wheat and the tares are not fully developed yet, but it's close. Mm-hmm. So that's why I keep telling people, wake up. And after you wake up, you better take a stand. Because if we don't know how to fight against evil in this life, we will not be prepared for the kingdom of God. Period.
Yep.
Because the kingdom of God is liberty.
Right.
Gosh.
Yeah.
It's just.
Absolutely.
It's liberty. It's like you go around, like in our church, like we talk about scripture heroes, right? Mm-hmm. And for those of you that are listening that aren't members, there's a man named Captain Moroni in our scriptures. So if you don't believe it, okay, great. Just take it like a little fairy tale. There's a man named Captain Moroni. He goes around and he gathers for liberty. He gathers people. People come running for liberty. He's angry with the government. Well, the person that abridged the plates named Mormon, out of all the stories that he looked at, he said, if all men were like unto
Moroni.
Captain Moroni. Mm-hmm. He didn't say church leaders, and that's not a dig on church leaders, but why didn't he say the prophet at the time? Why did he say this guy who's fighting for liberty, who's really angry, mm-hmm. who is making people vow for liberty? Like, it came to that point. You better choose it. Mm-hmm. So why was he saying if all men were like unto that guy? He didn't even have a church calling that we know about.
Right.
So what I'm trying to explain is, like, we are all supposed to be warriors for God, no matter what faith you're in, whatever faith you're in, even if you're not of a faith. If you're standing up for what is right and true, you're standing up for God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You see these Canadian truckers?
Yeah.
How amazing that, dude, that was
awesome.
So inspiring.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I was like, that's how the kingdom's going to rise, is by people that are standing up for their God-given rights.
Yeah. True.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. True.
This is how it's going to happen. It's like from all over the world, all these different, how you hear like the millennium's going to be filled with all these different faiths?
Yes.
People that don't yet know Christ?
Yes.
This is how it's going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it's those that are standing up for their God-given rights. Because people don't understand that the Constitution doesn't give you your rights. That's not, people think, that's what gives me my right. No. The Constitution is there to tell the politicians what they can and can't do. Your God-given rights are eternal. Those are already there. They are part of you. Mm-hmm. And so my whole thing is that if you hand over your God-given rights, the right to life, the right to pursue your happiness, the right to your stuff, your property, if you just hand those over in the name of safety, in the name of love, in the name of unity, the greater good.
Sure.
Yep.
If you hand those over physically, guess where else you lose them? Spiritually.
Yep.
And I think that's what COVID did. It brought us down as a human family. The level of fear that COVID did, it just brought us down to this frequency of really low light of fear. And since then, look what they've introduced.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, it reminds me of that quote that says, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And so often people want that. They're willing to do that. They want to feel safe, so they give up liberties and freedoms, and then they complain about not having them. But realizing, you said something earlier about, you might lose something, but you gain character. And when you gain character, you also gain influence over other people who desire to have character, right? And it allows you to create a community of people like you're doing. You're using social media to really stand up and create a message where people are attracted to that message. And it does. It makes a positive impact on the world.
Well, it depends on. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I want to ask you a question, because I want you to get to where obviously you're able to do you've built a great platform because of your story, and because of who you are. And I just kind of want people to know, I mean, reading your book, I was just fascinated with what happened with your career. And I just kind of want to know, where did you find, I mean, you obviously have faith, but that doesn't mean it's easy all the time. And you reading your book, I could kind of see the struggle when you got let go of your job. Now what's next? I'd like you to take us through that journey. And where you're at now. Are things working really well? Have you seen the blessings from your decisions? Has it been a constant battle? Seems like you're super happy. You got a great family, married, kids. I'd like to kind of just hear that, how all that came together. Because anytime somebody overcomes what you've overcome, and is in a position like you're in right now, where you're still willing to risk it all for the truth and for everything that's right, and it's inspiring. It's awesome.
Well, I appreciate it. I try to, my gifts are my weaknesses, right? So like doing all the social media stuff, going around speaking, it's like, I like that kind of stuff because that's where when I talk to people about this kind of stuff, it renews me, right?
Yeah.
Like this to me is ministering.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
a bunch of guys sitting around talking about what really matters.
It is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not just going and checking off, oh, did you go visit them?
Right.
No, this is what it's about. Like having good people around to talk about truth. Like that's, to me, that's a big deal. And so, I go around and talk. One of my downfalls is I have an ego that I always try to set, it's like but at the same time, I see that God has put me in a position where I can use that to try and glorify Him.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm always battling that natural side of me.
Yeah.
Like people are like, you need to run for office. Why? Tell me why I need to run for office. Because you would change it. I'm not going to do nothing.
Yeah.
Like right now, we need to get back to the basics of who we are, who our families are. Like that. You think that a president's going to save us? No. That's not going to happen. So I've been trying to understand this cancel culture thing. Cause you asked okay, so to answer your question, what do you think's happening? I think that the devil, and he hates me, by the way, he hates me because I see his plans and I don't know how to explain it to you, but I know what he's doing because he takes everything that God does and he mirrors it. Everything. So there was a war in heaven. So those of you that are just believe in the Bible, go read the book of Revelation. There was a war in heaven. What that means is that we lived before we came here as spirits, because you are created spiritually before you are created physically. Everything is created spiritually first, then it's created physically. So there was an actual war similar to this war that we're having right now, and it was about liberty. It was about free agency, whether or not we could choose to come back to God, right? And so the Savior stood up and said, because God knew if we were going to come down away from His presence, we were going to make the fall. If we fell out of God's presence, we are naturally out of that light and out of that love and out of that, we're going to make some bad decisions. So He knew that, but He also knew that we had to come down here so that we could gain experience, so that we could appreciate the light. Does that make sense? There's no way to really, if we stayed in the presence of God all the time, we would never know what light is because you didn't experience the darkness.
Dichotomy of life.
You would never know health if you didn't know sickness. You would never. So one of the reasons why we're here is so that we could actually truly appreciate what God has in store for us. Right? Yeah. If all you did was just eat suckers and candy, you would never know. It wouldn't mean anything. Right? And so, I think what happened was the devil, because the devil was jealous that Jesus stood up and said, I'll go. So then he's like, no, I'll go. And then he, his little crafty plan that all you need to do is just listen to me. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if I'm right or wrong. Just follow me and you'll make it. And he duped a third of the host of heaven. A third of the host of heaven followed that plan. Because that was the plan of safety.
Sounded good, guaranteed.
It was the plan of safety. Yeah. And a lot of us in this Christian world, we actually have bought into that. All we have to do is just follow whatever we're told. It doesn't even matter if it's right or wrong. You'll be blessed. Really? Really? We're here to make decisions, right? And so the devil made a bad decision, and he was cast out of heaven for rebellion against the commandments, right? In God's kingdom. So what I think happened, and this is where I'm going to go with your question. I know I'm like telling this whole story, but this is important. And this is important. What I think happened, and this is my opinion, so I don't know if I'm right, but he has created a counter kingdom. So the devil has created a counter kingdom that looks similar to God's kingdom, but it's very different. It's all done by force. It's all done by fear, by manipulation, by coercion, with enticings, with all kinds of temptation, right? But he doesn't have commandments. The devil, I say, has demandments. And if you don't follow those demandments exactly, if you don't follow the devil's demandments exactly, guess what happens to you? You're cast out of his kingdom. The same thing that happened to him.
But he makes it feel like you're being cast out of God's kingdom, is what he makes you feel like.
When in reality, I believe that's why Jesus was saying, consider the lilies.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Consider the birds. Why are you worried about this? Why don't you believe in God? Because he will protect you. So I get this order or our assignment that they wanted 5 of us in the LGBT parade in our police uniforms as motorcycle officers. Because you know how the motorcycle officers, they're in the front of the parades, doing the spins as part of the celebration. Well, that's what they wanted for the LGBT parade in Salt Lake City. And I saw that, and I don't know how to explain it to you, but I knew that I couldn't be a part of it. I just knew it.
This was 2014.
Yeah, 2014. So I went to another officer and said, "Hey, will you switch me spots?" So he was on the motorcycle squad. Yeah. I said, "Hey, will you be in the parade and I'll do your security spot?" Which is totally
so
within.
You were fine with doing security. You just didn't want to be a promotion.
That's right.
Yep.
And he's like, "Yeah, man, no problem. I get it. So we switch. 1 hour later, an email comes down the chain. So I got to work at 5 p.m. I made the switch. At 6 p.m., an email comes down the chain that says, in part of the email, there will be no trading positions in or out of this. Which, whoa, that's never been a thing. That's actually out of policy.
Yeah.
So it was like, these are the assignments. Oh, by the way, you cannot trade out of the assignment. When the irony is my direct sergeant at the time, so this was another sergeant in the motorcycle unit that was in charge of the parade. My direct sergeant got out of the parade entirely because, quote, it's gross.
Wow.
So I switch spots. I see this email. I have to send another email back that says, hey, you got to understand that I love all people. I in my email, I love gay people because I do. There's nobody in the world that I hate.
Sure.
I disagree with a lot of people. I won't associate with a lot of people, but I don't hate anyone.
I disagree with my kids every day. Don't mean I don't love them.
Exactly. Good point. What about your wife? Disagree with her?
Never.
Exactly.
I mean, even leftists, right? Like even these communists that think that the New World Order is the way to go. I don't hate them. And so I said, look, I love all people, but I do not feel comfortable being in this. It goes against what I believe. Please. He sends this nasty email back. He says, you should have no problem with people in our department that are LGBTQ. These are our brothers and sisters too. And I'm like, you don't understand. And so anyway, a couple days later, I get a text from the deputy chief. We need to see you in the office. And my heart just dropped.
Real quick. So did you end up switching positions that day?
Well, I'm going to explain that. Okay. So this was a week before the parade.
Oh.
So these emails are going on a week.
I was assuming it was
a week before the parade. And so a couple days later, I get a text. So this is on the Friday. So the parade is here on a Saturday, but the Friday before or Thursday before, this is when all the email exchanges are happening.
Okay.
So then I get a text, I think on Monday, hey, we need to see you in our office on Wednesday. And I was like, this isn't good. I just felt it in my heart. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I told my wife, I'm like, this isn't good. And so that day when I drove in on my motorcycle, I was just, and this is part of my book too, by the way. And you can read, like anybody who, you can go to ericmoutsos.com and just read it for free. So if you don't have the means to get it.
I followed you for a long time. Didn't know you had a book.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's free online. I tell my story. Yeah, I tell it because I want to have people. That's why I wrote the book, because everyone's like, why didn't you sue because about the story I'm going to tell you. But anyway, in chapter 1, I explained, like, I had a feeling this was the last time I was going to be in this uniform. Like, I was like, this is scary. Like, I just saw it in my mind. And so that day I went in and they were explaining to me, like, there's a whole conversation, and then they took my badge and my gun for discrimination. And I felt like I was just, my whole like everything just flipped upside down. Like, I was crying, like my sergeant was there. He didn't say nothing. The 2 guys that took my badge and my gun, they say, hey, we don't agree with what's happening. And I'm just thinking, like, why don't you do something?
Yeah, you put your life on
this
the
is
line
my
with these
this
men.
you guys are my admin. Like, why don't you do something about it? And that was it, dude. Like, they took my badge and my gun, and I was going to go through this whole investigation for bigotry. And 2 days later, the Salt Lake Tribune comes out with a fake article saying officer refuses gay pride parade. And they lied. That's not what happened. I never refused.
Yeah.
I just wanted to trade. I just wanted to say, hey, I'll be there to protect you, but I do not agree with this. And so, sorry, I get a little emotional about it because I don't regret it. Like, in fact, the only thing I regret now is not putting my foot down even harder.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah.
Like really causing a thing. But I just got to the point where I'm like, look, if I can't even live my faith in the where I live and where I work, I don't want to be around them.
Yeah.
And so people are like, why didn't you sue? Because I don't want to fight these guys for 5 years and I don't have any money.
Yeah.
I don't want to have that lawsuit talk thinking about it all day,
Plus, you just got the wind knocked out of you. The last thing you want to do probably right now is fight back.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted it to just go. I just wanted to hide, dude. Like, I went through a massive depression, lost like 25 pounds. I couldn't eat anything. My friends I'm getting all these, like, people are deleting me on social because why would the police department lie?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would they lie?
Wow.
And so since then, I've just looked back and realized how much of a blessing that was. Like one guy that I used to work with, he'd call me, he said, there might have been a bullet with your name on it the next day. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, you lose your livelihood. Now you're losing your reputation. You have your character, though. And, you maintain that, which is the most important thing, right? That's the thing we should always be concerned with. But boy, you feel like your whole world's collapsing. And it's not like you probably had no backup plan for career-wise. So
I didn't, because I didn't go to school.
Yeah. So
right.
So what's your wife saying to you? What's going on there? What's the next move?
Yeah. Well, the next move was, like, I got out. I tried to go back to another department, and some same kind of issues were starting to happen there. And I just realized, like, I'm done. Like, I got to get out of this. So then, I got into the sales world. I started door knocking, which at 35, that's hard. Like, it's like going from that to now, I'm now knocking on people's doors. Like, I can't get hired at places because people are just looking my name up. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so since then, like, God has just blessed me a lot with opportunity. Not, he hasn't just handed it to me, but he's given me opportunity after opportunity. People, what I'm trying to say is, do not be afraid, because he will bless you. And he does, over and over and over. He'll put me in the path with people. And I don't know, man. What happened with me, I knew just in my heart spiritually is going to happen to everyone. We saw what just happened with the last 3 years of this tyranny, this medical tyranny.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, the same thing. It's all the same it's all the same darkness.
It's all
right?
part of the same plan.
It's all communism. It's all it's the devil's plan.
Yeah.
You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it in the name of love.
Yeah.
All for the greater good.
So let me ask you this: what happened during that time, and then now? You had one child when that happened. Is that correct?
Yeah. Now we have 4.
Now you have 4. So what did that do to your relationship with your wife over these years? Like, do you feel like it's made it stronger? How do you think it's made you as a father?
Yeah. In the end, I mean, sure, we've had our disagreements about stuff. Like she wanted me to stay at one point, like just go through the investigation, and it's like when you're on their radar, it's like a cop, right? A cop gets behind you. And for longer, they are going to find a reason to get you.
Yeah.
Like there's 6,000 federal laws.
Yeah.
And they got quotas.
If the federal government wants you, they will get you for something. It's another reason why I don't run for office. It's like you don't understand. We are in our government, not all of them, but like there is a dark, deep state part of the government that people don't want to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Deep state. And Utah's one of the most wicked.
Yeah, I would argue to say, amongst the top 3 for sure. I think a lot of people don't realize the when you have power, money becomes almost non-existent, and so it's really a fight over power. Most people think it's all just about money, but when you have power, when you have enough power, you don't need money.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that.
It usually goes hand in hand, though.
Yeah.
But it usually goes hand in hand. And so, we'll have our district, but ultimately she knows that no matter what's going to happen, I'm going to go knock on someone's door if I need to sell something.
Yeah.
To provide.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like ultimately, as long as I can talk and as long as there's something that I believe in, I'll be able to provide for my family. And she knows that. And I think that's helped her because women, they want to just know that they're secure.
Yep.
They want to know like, hey, is this guy going to lose his job and just turn into a slug? Or is he going to fight?
Sure.
And so to me, I'm just like, whatever happens, happens,
Yeah.
So you feel like it strengthened your relationship with your wife over the years? She realized like, hey, I can depend on him. And
I mean, and it just works out. I started a small supplement company called Freedom Blends. It's all products based on the principles of liberty.
Yeah. Awesome.
I've got pro-life protein, First Amendment multis, commie colon cleanse, sleep off socialism.
That's awesome.
Freedom Fuel.
Awesome. Where do people go to get that?
Freedomblends.com.
Cool. That's awesome.
And that's where my book's at too. But get the Freedom Fuel if you're listening. It's good. It's like all your fruits and veggies in a capsule. Makes it so you don't crave after carbs and sugars.
Cool. Well, you look good, so it must work.
Well, I try to just working out is more just my mental, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
It just helps me more mentally than anything.
Yeah.
And so my message to people is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get canceled. That's exactly what God wants.
Okay.
Most people hate their job anyway. Mm-hmm. I would say 80% or more of Americans hate their job. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid to speak up.
Yeah, dude, I've never had a job. I would have been fired a million times by now.
That's true. You're that's true.
For sure. I never would have lasted. I always tell everybody I'm unemployable.
Yeah, but that's how God wanted it to be. And He didn't want these big corporations, and that's not the way we were designed.
No. Yeah.
We were, in my opinion, we were designed to have our own little plot of land, grow your own food, teach your own kids. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and that's why I asked about your wife and your kids. Now you have 4 kids. I mean, I'm sure it made you a better father. How is it raising kids in this environment? I mean, because I think this is a big topic that, we talk to, all my kids are in sports, and one of the things parents are always talking about, how do I protect my kids from these things, And I really just think it's your example, but how do you think it's done, being as a father, how do you think it's influenced your kids, them watching you fight this battle?
Well, we'll find out, but like my 11-year-old, like she comes home with this book the other day because they're still in public. I'm still one of those guys that believe, like everyone's like, retreat out of public school. I don't want to, one way or the other, I support anyone's decision, right?
Yeah.
I'm one of those that say we need to fight within. Mm-hmm. We need to see the propaganda, call it out, have teachers start calling it out, because to me, I don't think that retreating teach your kids what propaganda looks like and teach your kids how to call it out. right?
Cool. Yep.
My daughter, my youngest, wouldn't wear a mask. Wouldn't do it. She's like, no, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
And they knew who her dad was, and it's like they didn't mess with her, right? And if everybody did that, it wouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
That's
like
cool.
at the very beginning when all this communism started coming in, if everyone's like, nope, no,
Right.
nope, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But we got caught so off guard. So my daughter comes home with this like book about the COVID-19 vaccine. Right?
Yep.
She comes home with this book. And she's like, look at this. I can't turn this back in. Right? And so I'm like, okay, we're going to probably have to pay for this, but she won't, right?
Yeah.
So and I'm sure they already have another one in, but it's like,
Sure.
teach them to spot it. Teach them to do something about it.
Yeah. That is fun when your kids catch on and they're like, hey, wait a minute. This isn't right. Mom,
Yeah.
look at this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, I kind of want them in the battle.
Sure.
Like I want them to feel what it's like to push back and to see what because that builds character.
Yeah. It
Right.
does.
And so like, I've thought about moving up into the mountains, like selling everything I have, but it's like, is that the answer yet?
Right.
I don't know.
I think we've all thought that or are thinking that.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I would want to do, but it's like, well, maybe we just need to wake people up and get them to see this, and then once they're awakened, now we're there.
So when did you decide to go from defense, being depressed, frustrated, that like to go on offense like you are now? What made that decision? I mean, was it just one day you woke up, or was it kind of a slow?
When I would get like little messages from people, little message, people would send me, hey, I came across this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like, keep going. Like, I'll go to like Costco or something. People will stop me and be like, hey, I follow your stuff. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it gives me, I'll tell this story. I don't tell this story a lot. In fact, I don't think I've ever told this story, but when I was praying about all this stuff, right? Like, what should I do? What should I do? When I was like finally going to come out and tell my story, like I finally was like, okay, because I was kind of this unknown figure in the news.
Yeah.
Right? This unknown figure in the news. I had to come out and finally say, hey, because they were doing this religious freedom bill that was supposed to be bringing like, the LGBTQ and the religious people coming together. And I was scared to tell the story, but I knew that there was no cases in Utah. Like the governor had said at the time, we don't know of any cases like of where religious people are getting discriminated on. And I'm like, so I finally like told my story where it was like, here's who I am. And at first I was doing the interview with KSL and I had the little black silhouette.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And as I was doing that, I'm like, I don't feel good about this. Like I need to, so I prayed. I was like, Heavenly Father, I need to know what you want me to do.
Yeah.
Like, because I knew that as soon as my name gets attached to this, it's game over for me. Game over meaning like
Game on.
in the, so it was that was kind of the, to answer your question, this is kind of it. So that night I had a dream. And in that dream, I was like, I don't know if I was floating or if I was walking, I was coming up to this like beautiful building. I don't know if you want to call it a temple or what, but it was just a beautiful illuminated building. And on the hill was a whole bunch of little families sitting down in circles. I don't know if it was like, just a whole bunch of little families. And the closer I got, I could feel like the spirit even stronger and stronger. And those families would get up and they started shaking my hand. And they were like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, over and over. Thank you, thank you. And I woke up and I knew that I was supposed to, right? And so fast forward, I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it meant. So when COVID happened, I got a call from my buddy who is still a police officer. Are you guys aware of all the rallies we did or not?
No.
Not really.
I was actually living in Vegas when COVID hit.
Okay, so when COVID hit, I got a call from my buddy who's a policeman still up in Salt Lake. He's like, dude, we're going on these calls. Like, we're going on these, like, social distancing calls. Because the city put up a snitch line in Salt Lake City that if you're not social distancing, you can call the police. and police are going to show up and say, get away from each other. So they didn't arrest anyone, but they put a fear on people that if they're gathered, then a neighbor can call. I mean, this is like crazy. Nazi, bro.
Yep.
And so it fired me up so much that I called the snitch line on myself.
Yeah.
And I said, and I recorded myself, and I said, hey, there's going to be a big rally coming up this next Saturday from a former policeman. Yeah. They're like, well, he can't do that. I'm like, oh, he's going to. I'm just letting you know. And so then I did this call to action, and we got thousands of people to show up downtown. So we were on.
I do remember that. Yeah.
So we were on the first rallies in the country. In the country, like we were one of the first.
Yeah, really cool.
And I just had this idea. I'm like, what can we do to like not just cry about it? And then I had this idea to create this Utah business revival. So then I was like, hey, we're gonna go purchase all this food at Crown Burger, because those guys are my buddies, because they're Greek, because I'm Greek. So I'm like, so go to Crown Burger, and he's like, and use the word liberty, and then you can get some discount, right? And then we're going to have a picnic in the park. And I still tried to like explain this. I didn't know the virus, right? I was still kind of respectful, but I'm like I had gloves because nobody knew.
Yeah.
Right. So, but we have to gather. Like if the government tells you that you can't gather, you better gather.
Yep.
If they say you can't have 20 people, you better come with 21 immediately and challenge them, because that's unconstitutional. And so we showed up with thousands of people. And when I got there, there was a whole bunch of people sitting in little circles.
Wow.
Eating. And when I came up, they were coming up to me and saying, thank you.
It's powerful.
And Heavenly Father just said, like, keep doing what you're doing. And so after that, we just kept having like more rallies and more rallies. And then someone comes up to me and was like, hey, this is what I do as a business. They're like, this is what I do. And they opened up their book of business, and it was all these like stages, like concert stages, you know, like music, you know, like a big concert. That's what they do. They lights and all this stuff. And I just had this idea. I was like, we're going to have a concert. And so going back to my music career, which I never got anywhere with it. I had opened up for Colin Ray.
Right. Yeah.
So I had this idea. I'm like, because him and I had been texting. We're still kind of buddies, you know. And so I text Colin Ray. I was like, hey, do you want to be the first concert in America since COVID? And he's like, brother, I'm in.
That's awesome.
So we got canceled in 2 different counties. You know, the news was following us. They were pissed off. The Governor Herbert, they were all pissed off trying to cancel us. So finally, the Iron County Commissioner, Paul Cousins, he had heard the story. He's like, we're going to do it down here. So we ended up pulling off the first concert in America.
Holy cow.
With Colin Ray in July of 2020. So you can go to my website, ericmoutsos.com, and watch Non-Essential. There's a documentary that we did in Utah, and it's about how we put on the first concert in America. And so that concert was like so symbolic to me. Like, no, they're not going to stop this. Guy Fieri showed up.
That's awesome.
And
amazing.
Guy Fieri showed up out of nowhere. I didn't set it up, and he announced Colin.
Wow.
Like, dude, it was so...
Wow.
The spirit was so strong.
Yeah.
It was so strong. And so since then, I've just been like, hey, what's next? What's next? What's next? And what I've come to... what I believe is that we are not going to stop what's coming. Now, people are like, well, then what do we do? Why are we even trying? Well, that's not the point. The point is, what did you do? Who did you become during this test? Yeah. Because this is a spiritual simulation to see if you're going to stand and to see if you're going to be prepared for the kingdom of God.
I think that's a really powerful thing to understand, because it's all prophesied, right? That the second coming it's coming. The end of the world is coming. So I think it's easy to go, if it's coming anyway, why why even try? And you just answered that question. I mean,
it's because you can't become like God unless you know how to stand up for what is right.
Yeah.
And that's why liberty is the kingdom. The foundation of the celestial kingdom is liberty.
Oh.
And if you're like, what is this? Go to 1 Corinthians 15:40. The foundation of that kingdom is liberty. And if you don't know how to stand up for liberty, you're not ready for that kingdom, in my opinion. And so to me, what I've been trying to do is to just tell people, you better get ready physically. And I'm sure you guys look like freaking preppers, like in here. You guys are, get prepared physically and get prepared spiritually. Well, how do we do that? You get right with God every single day. We're all sinners. We're all screw-ups. Repent.
Good.
Right?
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, that's it. That's all we can do. And
Yep.
if we have those two things in ready, let's do it.
It's awesome. Well, yeah, it's a great way to end. We could keep you all day, but I'm sure you have places to go. But we try not to go too long, But we could keep you here forever. But
That's been awesome, man.
Been really good. Really, really appreciate your message and your courage and just your inspiration. We've been watching you for years, and you inspire myself, my wife, our family, and I know you follow as well. And
well, just know I have a lot of problems too.
Sure.
I mean, we all have
anybody fighting a battle does.
That's what I'm saying. Just know that I've got problems that I'm a sinner.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
None of us are perfect, man.
But I know that Christ is the only way.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think we keep we make and keep our covenants, with God, and that's where we receive blessings and miracles. And we got to repent all the time to continue to do that. But as we do that, that's Russell M. Nelson says it all the time. You want to see miracles, follow them exact, right? Mm-hmm. Follow the commandments exactly. So appreciate it. Thanks for being on, and we wish you the best, and we'll continue to join the team and do what we can do to contribute.
Keep fighting a good fight, man.
All right.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it.